The last time I saw Superman on the big screen was in Batman v Superman 9 years ago in 2016. It was the second part in Zack Snyder's dark vision of the DC universe. It was a film that portrayed Superman as an incredibly stoic yet oftentimes miserable figure who was straight up murdered at the end before he even really had a chance to shine and before the audience really got a sense of who Superman was. For reasons I won't bother discussing here, I did not like that film, let alone that entire cinematic universe, and truth be told, it kind of put me off of DC movies for a long time, save for a few outliers. But many things have changed since that movie. Nearly a decade has passed, the DCEU has ended, and the world itself is in a very different spot compared to how it was back then. I think I speak for many when I take a look around, and while I acknowledge all the amazing things that I have to be grateful for, I also acknowledge all of the terrifying events that are happening, the lack of empathy from a lot of those around us, and how every day it's been feeling like there's less and less hope for our future. So with everything going on in the real world, the fact that I've never been a huge mega fan of any of the Superman movies, if I'm being honest, and the last time I saw Superman in the movies, I just was not a fan of that. I just really wasn't all too excited or wasn't really rushing to go see this new Superman movie. But I had some time on my hands and some money to spare, so I got the opportunity to see it. So what did I think of it? Well, for one, this is the best Superman movie ever made, but it's also exactly the kind of movie that the world needs right now. Before I get into why that is, let me just play devil's advocate real quick and just get my biggest criticism out of the way just really quickly. My biggest issue with the movie is that it's just too short for how much stuff is in it. There are so many things happening all of the time, all at once, with so many characters at play, that some side characters you think would be more important only show up for maybe one or two scenes. The villains don't really get much development at all, and what development is there is told through a lot of really forced dialogue where characters will just verbatim say what their motivation is. Although, to be fair, this all sounds a lot worse than it actually is in the movie. I just think it's worth mentioning. Ironically enough, though, that actually leads into the first positive thing I have to say about this film. Unlike any other comic book movie, at least live action, that I've seen, this feels the most like a comic book brought to life. The film immediately begins in the thick of it with this world of gods, monsters, magic, aliens, robots, super dogs, pocket dimensions, and a bajillion characters all doing different stuff and all sorts of wacky things. It's exactly like picking up a random Superman comic and reading it. You'll fill in the blanks of what's going on that you're not aware of as you go on, but it still works as an independent story. It's not trying to be Superman in the real world. It's not trying to start from ground zero or retell the origin of Superman right from the beginning. It's simply a Superman comic book if it were a movie. For as wild as other superhero movies have been, I don't think any of them quite captured the feeling of this movie. That's not to say this is the best superhero movie ever, but I do believe jumping right into an established world is the best way they could have done this film, and is also the best way that they could have started this new DC universe. Now, while I did say that I was never a huge fan of the other Superman movies, that doesn't mean they don't have their strengths either. For instance, I thought Man of Steel and Batman v Superman visually and musically had a lot of cool stuff. The reason I'm bringing this up right now is because I also believe this film has that as well, even though many have criticized the film's score for not being unique enough and the action scenes for being lackluster. I just disagree with that take. I think the music does a great job of capturing the classic feeling of John Williams' score from the very first Superman movie, combined with Hans Zimmer's more modern soundtrack from the Snyder movies, which doesn't sound like the most unique thing in the world, but it is incredibly effective nonetheless. As for action, I'm not really sure why people are saying it's lacking, given all the insane moments that happen in this, especially since Superman actively uses all of his abilities instead of just punching people like he does in all the other movies, and the action feels like it has more stakes this time, as Superman is actively trying to save every living creature during these large, massive battles, which is a nice detail that many of the other films lacked. Overall, I found all of this together, the music, the action, the action that Superman takes during the big fight scenes, and the comic bookiness of it all, works together to create something unique, to give this film its own identity. And that word right there, identity, is at the core of this film. This movie, more than any other Superman movie, really asks the question, who is Superman, why does he do what he does, and what is it that he really wants to do? The answer, everyone, is simple. Superman wants to do good because it's good. And as the film points out, that's not all sunshine and rainbows. He spends most of the film getting beaten down, losing fights, having his public image destroyed, being ostracized from this world he so desperately wants to belong to despite being an alien, and being questioned for this simple view. There's a particular scene where Superman is questioned for intervening in a thinly veiled representation of a current real-world conflict that we all know about, and when pushed far enough, he just cries out that he did what he did because people were going to die. Superman doesn't have it easy in this, but the knowing of right from wrong is easy. And no matter how much conflict he endures in the film, he does what is right, what is kind, what is empathetic. Because for the first time in many years, Superman on the big screen at the time we need it most represents the kind of person all of us should be to make this world a better place. Whether or not the world is becoming a better or worse place is a subject I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds right now. It's certainly been on my mind given the actions taken by the United States government since the start of 2025. And now while many people have been inspired by the positivity of this new Superman movie, some popular figures and outlets don't see things the same way. Very recently, the popular and often criticized for being misleading right-wing channel Fox News ran a segment criticizing the new Superman movie for being woke? That's right, bigots' favorite word whenever a minority plays an important role in anything, really. Anywho, they expressed disdain for this new film because it features pro-immigrant themes and that people don't go see a movie to be lectured to and have an ideology thrown on them. First of all, do these people not engage with any piece of entertainment or stories ever? Because every single story that is ever told, any piece of art, has some form of ideology behind it. And besides, the ideology of this film is to do good and be there for your common man. Somehow that's a bad thing? And funniest of all, yet another American fails to realize that the United States was built by immigrants and that Superman is an immigrant. Go back to the very first appearance of Superman nearly 100 years ago. He first appeared in Action Comics, in which Superman was described as a champion of the oppressed, and also the fact that he's an alien from another planet. This has been at the core of this character since his very inception, so I don't know what people want. Besides, why is it even wrong that he's pro-immigrant anyway? Do people not deserve to be saved because they aren't from the United States or something? A lot of people are mad that they dropped the American way from the phrase that describes what he stands for, truth, justice, and the American way. But that was only done because Superman is for everyone, not for one particular group of people, and it's always been that way. Look, if you see this film of someone being kind, helpful, empathetic, and striving to do the right thing no matter where you come from, and you see that as a bad thing, then maybe you need to take a look in the mirror about the kind of values you stand for. I found a social media post that was reposted elsewhere online. I'm not sure where it originally came from, but I think it helps illustrate this idea very well. Let's go ahead and take a look at it, okay? It reads, "Excuse me for stating the obvious, but like James Gunn outright calling Superman an immigrant and doubling down on it when he got backlash because he is an immigrant, that's the point of Superman, plus the in-movie dialogue of, aren't you going to read me my rights? You're an extraterrestrial, son. You haven't got any rights to read. And the violence of his arrest and how they torture and mistreat him unapologetically, all under the guise of protecting America, in a film releasing during the onslaught of violent ICE kidnappings and abuse. Yeah, it's really no wonder right-wing knobheads are crying about this being woke. They're being forced to look directly at the reasons one of the most notorious heroes of all time would not be on their side. And that's only one of the reasons this movie covers. Like, there's no way to misinterpret it unless you're trying to. The movie isn't being subtle. It's just asking, what if your fantasy of an ideal man was born somewhere else and got treated like everyone else you call illegal, and people cannot handle it? So yeah, I'm sorry that so many of you have taken on such a dehumanizing point of view towards immigrants who are people uprooting their entire lives for the promise of something better, which is the American dream, by the way, and you get so mad about it you gotta rant online because Superman is saving people who happen to be immigrants. I think that says a lot about the kind of person you are if you dislike the movie for this. Besides the fact that it's just Superman and Superman is the biggest superhero ever, perhaps all of this stuff I'm talking about is why this movie is so culturally relevant right now, way more than any other superhero movie has been for some time. Maybe it's the fact that the conflicts Superman is facing mirrors what we see in the world around us, and that some of these conflicts are simply a matter of doing the right thing for people in need, yet what is essentially the act of basic human decency has become highly politicized. Writer Tom Taylor explained it perfectly when he described Superman as the following: a child whose world is lost when politicians reject science, a baby sent across an ocean of stars to seek the safety of another land, a refugee embraced by America who uses his great power to help everyone on Earth, a kind and humble hero who challenges a cruel and narcissistic billionaire, a man who can be anything, who chooses to be a journalist for truth and justice, a symbol of hope pushing back against fear, a smile, a friend. This is the time for Superman. And I really do believe that. This right now is the time for Superman. And this portrayal of Superman is what we need. There's a take that complements this well from another comics writer, Grant Morrison, who explains that Superman's key word is more so action, not just hope. After all, he did first appear in Action Comics, and hope without action is simply wishful thinking. In our world today, it sometimes feels like all we can do is hope, because one person taking action won't make a difference. But what we see in this film is one man taking action. For the first time in decades, Superman for the general public at the time we need it most is a shining example of the best that we can be right here, right now. Not because he's got cool powers and can punch people, but because he is a friend to the world. Not because he's a god above us, but because he shows the best that we are all capable of being. So I really like the movie. I think it's really good. I think it resonates with a lot of others as well. Whatever your thoughts are on this Superman movie, let me know in the comments below. Leave a like on the video. Share it with other people if you want. And I will see you all next time. I finally have a Superman movie that I can actually say is really good. I know that's a hot take, but I liked it. It's a good movie.